Hello and welcome back to Redeeming Reels, where we seek to watch movies and see the redemption within the reels. If you don't know who I am, my name is Rye. I'm the host of the show, or creative project, whatever you want to call it, podcast. It really doesn't matter. But today we have a very special new type of episode that I've been planning on doing for a while, and then every time I plan it, I forget. But now I have remembered. Today we have what I'm calling Letterboxd Recap. Essentially, what this is going to be is I'm going to look at the last month um, and look at not all the movies that I watched, but I'm going to highlight some, talk about some for maybe more time than others, things of that nature. Just kind of highlighting everything. And this is a chance for me to plug my Letterboxd account. It is at 182nd ONE82ND. This is where I review all movies. I write reviews for everything. I have scores, I have lists, I have rankings, I have all these things. And so I'm super, super excited about that and just being able to share that. So if you want to follow me on there, I highly recommend creating an account. It's a fun social media. I have a blast with it. I've gotten some friends on it. My wife Jenna is kind of on it. My brother's on it. He's the one who started on it with me. My friend Brighton, his wife Kayla, who's also my friend. And if we have some other friends, I have some other friends as well that are on it. So please hop on to Letterboxd, follow me there, and you can see everything that I think about all these films before I actually review them. And so, another thing that I'm gonna probably continue to shout out throughout this episode, and I tried to do it as much as possible, is I have another podcast that I love dearly, called the Chicken the Duck Podcast with my brother. As you can see, right there, if you're on video, you can see kind of this picture. It's our logo in an anime style, but the Chicken the Duck Podcast is a podcast with my brother where we talk about anything and everything, pop culture things, but we talk a lot about movies. And so all these movies I've already talked about on a podcast. And so if you want to know my thoughts before, go to Letterboxd or go check out the Chicken the Duck Podcast, and you can go listen to all my thoughts there as we review a lot of movies there. So essentially today, what you're getting is you're getting a recap of September. A lot of things that I watched in September. Like I said, I'll highlight some and probably talk about some more than others, but that's kind of the deal. So I'm going to be highlighting some new releases that are not going to be talked about or get a solo episode. Highlight some rewatches, and then also as well as some first watches that didn't come out this year, but I've never seen them before. And I watched quite a few movies this month. And so let's just dive into new releases. First thing I want to talk about is I did see The Creator that just came out, and I've also seen all four Wes Anderson short films: The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, The Ratcatcher, The Swan, and Poison. I've seen all these. There is going to be a review coming out for the Chicken the Duck podcast this Wednesday on those 5 projects, and I will be doing my own Redeeming Reels kind of analysis on it, coming out most likely Friday or Saturday of next week. So you can be looking forward to that if you want to know full thoughts and maybe a theological breakdown of each of those films. But nonetheless, check out the Chicken the Duck podcast or check out my Letterboxd reviews because I have those posted as well. But yeah, so first off, I watched Strays, new releases. I'm talking new releases right now. I don't know if I said that, but I watched Strays. It's that Will Ferrell, Jamie Foxx movie about, it's like a rated R version of Secret Life of Pets. It sucked. I watched The Equalizer 3. It was interesting. It speaks to a lot about peace and being a peacemaker instead of violence. And Denzel is on his way out in terms of maybe some of these characters he's played for a while. And although I love him and he's fantastic, it's not like his best performance in the world or anything like that, So, but it is very, very, very good. I watched Bottoms. This is a movie that is like very indicative of like a 2000s kind of comedy. That not the most appropriate thing in the world. Definitely elements that go against my personal Christian values, right? But I'd be lying if I said I didn't have a good time watching this film. I thought it was funny. I mean, it was hilarious. Marshawn Lynch was hilarious. The cast is great. It really plays into this absurdity that it is high school and the lengths you would go to um, participate in relations with another person. It is, like I said, it's not the most appropriate. I don't recommend this to any student that ever listens to this podcast. I would highly encourage you do not watch it. But at the same time, I did think it was a very fun, enjoyable movie. Like it was a surprise for sure. Theater Camp. This is a movie that people were raving about, and I was like, I gotta watch it. I checked it out, almost turned it off after 15 minutes. And this isn't a shot at anybody that does theater. I have some dear friends that do theater and participated in it and love it, and I'm all for theater. There's local theater places in my area that use our church, and I love them. They're great. But this had, maybe stereotypes, I guess, of what theater is, and it had a bunch of adults talking about how to make a child more sexy, and it really threw me off, and I think rightfully so. It was inappropriate. It was awful. It wasn't like the previous movie I talked about where it's like, yeah, I disagree, but this is still funny. They're jokes, but this was like children were talking about, and I thought that was very inappropriate. And quite honestly, I hated it. I thought it was awful. I gave it a half star. Strays, I gave a 1 star. Equalizer, I gave a 3-star. Bottoms, I gave a 4-star. I'll give you my star rating, but I do a rating out of 100. But you got to go to Letterboxd to check that out. I also saw Dumb Money. This is the movie that's based on the GameStop, crisis back during COVID, when everything was in a frenzy, and it was built off this guy that just liked the stock. But it was absurd. It was chaotic. It kind of played into its strengths. At times it was pretty nerve-wracking, honestly, even though you know the outcome. And it's funny. It was a good time. I had a really good time. Paul Dano, he's a brilliant actor, but he just does such a good job playing this Reddit user. Like, there's no other way to put it. And the story was just really, really good. I really just enjoyed it. I enjoyed everything about it. It wasn't the most amazing thing in the world, but I liked it. I liked it a lot, actually. So I had a good time. It in general, the story's just crazy. So nonetheless, I liked I liked the movie. I watched No One Will Save You. This was a Chicken the Duck movie of the week. Go check out that episode. It is out right now. It's a psychological thriller. It's talks about, doesn't talk at all, actually. That's my point I was trying to make. It is a no words film. Caitlin Dever is the lead. She does a fantastic job. It builds suspense. It's thrilling, but it takes me out of it when it introduces the aliens that invade, and they're kind of goofy and corny looking and remind me of something that Hollywood made 50 years ago. So nonetheless, I still liked it. I gave it 3 stars, but it just wasn't my cup of tea, to say the least. So I also watched Expendables. It's another new release I watched. Expendables, the 4th Expendables. And I said this in my review, but I'm a very simple person. I don't always like a typical action movie, but sometimes it just hits me in the right way. This is not to say that this was great. I gave this a 3-star, but I had a blast. This movie very much centered around Jason Statham, who's one of my favorite action actors, if not my favorite action actor, and I think he's brilliant. He's funny, charming. Like, he just does such a good job every time he's on screen, and I really, really enjoy that. So it's very much turn off your brain, watch them do action things, kick a bunch of people's butts. Jason Statham takes on like 50 people at once. There's some added elements of just comedic. They try to throw in a twist that didn't work at all. Things like that. And I got a shout out to 2 people that I love, Tony Jaa and Levy Tron. Both of them were fantastic in their very limited roles. I had a blast. I had a really good time watching it. Like I said, 3 stars. I watched The Machine. This is like the comedy based on Bert Kreischer's like apparently real life story. It sucked, and I don't also think he's very funny. And the last new release that I do want to talk about, and like I said, The Crater and The West Week reviews will be out this following Friday or Saturday. but like, I watched the Kelsey documentary, which I thought was brilliant. I think that it did such a special thing where it didn't focus on the star of stars. Not to say that Jason Kelsey, who this documentary is about, obviously it's a little bit about Travis, but Jason Kelsey being this is the central focus of him. He's not the star of stars. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not a Travis Kelsey. He's a NFL lineman. He's a center. And while that plays a huge role for people that know football, for the average person, they're not going to know who this guy is unless you are a Philadelphia fan or you're a fan of just football in general, just because of the leaps and bounds that he's made in terms of content and podcasting, all these things. Anyway, I wouldn't like if you told me, 5 years ago that in 2023, one of my favorite pieces of media to come out would be a documentary about an NFL center. I would think that you were insane, right? Like, it's not something that I expected to enjoy. Jason Kelsey's such a lovable person. He's such a amazing man. It seems like his wife's hilarious. His kids are fun. Like, it's not some spectacular documentary talking about his rise to stardom. I mean, it is, but it's not a Patrick Mahomes. It's not Tom Brady. It's an NFL center, and it feels more human. It feels more down to earth because you're getting the highs on the football field as well as the lows off the field. And I think it was just brilliant. I really connected with it. I really, really, really enjoyed it. So it's just great. Talking on some rewatches, I rewatched How to Train Your Dragon. It's so good. The story's great. I love it. I rewatched Shang-Chi, which I hear a lot of slander that it sucks or the final battle's bad. I mean, Aquafina sucks. I really can't stand her. I think she's not very good in this as well. But I mean, the connection between the hero villain in this particular movie, obviously, you have Wenwu and who is the father of Shang-Chi, and the personal connection, and then the motives behind Wenwu and why he has to do what he wants to do. I think it's really well done. I think it's really well written. And I think the CGI is solid. I don't think it's like anything to like write home about, but I like it and I think it works well. As well as Shang-Chi just has some of the best action in the entire MCU, and I really like it. Micah and I both, my brother and I both revisited Cars 2 and The Last Jedi, which are the next two rewatches that I did, just to kind of revisit them and update our scores. Maybe we're too harsh on these. Cars 2, we're too harsh on. It's not the greatest thing in the world. It's better than quite a bit of things. Like, it's not the worst Pixar movie. I think that's crazy. It just really is held back by the fact that Mater's born to be a side character, and he's just not that interesting as a main lead. But shout out Finn McMissile. And then The Last Jedi, I have completely underrated. It is brilliant. It's the third best Star Wars movie, and I won't be taking any answers other than that. I'm kidding, clearly. But I did really, really like it. I gave it a 4-star. And yeah, it was sick. It was like it has its issues. It has issues, but the highs are really good. Endgame has its issues, and it's got some of the best highs ever. So, I rewatched War of the Planet of the Apes. Not as good as Dawn. Dawn is a masterpiece, but it is War of the Planet of the Apes is great and a great conclusion to this wonderful, wonderful trilogy. I rewatched Spirited Away, second best animated movie of all time. I think everybody needs to watch it. It is an essential film to view. So highly recommend it. It's, Studio Ghibli, it's Hayao Miyazaki, it's joyful, it's wonderful, it's charming, it's beautifully animated. The stories, I could not say enough good things about that film. I rewatched Crazy Stupid Love, Emma Stone, Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, and more. There's a lot more. Oh, goodness, excuse me. There's a lot more people in it, but all I gotta say is David Frickin' Lindhagen. One of the greatest twists, one of the best just scenes. One of my favorite scenes ever in any movie, literally ever. I rewatched Mad Max Fury Road, which is simply just probably the best action movie of all time. It's brilliant. The colors, the cinematography, the score, the acting performances from Charlize Theron, from Tom Hardy. I mean, the movie is just brilliant. We watched 2001: A Space Odyssey. I consider this movie the greatest movie of all time. And maybe I'll do a list on the movies that I think are the greatest movies ever sometime. I'm sure sometime I'll do it, but I'd rather make a video on my favorites. Um, and yeah, it's amazing. It's slow, it's methodical. It's not a movie you revisit very often. Um, but it is so good. I don't care what anybody says. We watched Arrival, which is just a wonderful sci-fi flick that um, relies heavily on dialogue and cinematography, then like big action set pieces and sequences that I just thought were freaking awesome. Um, like it was just so good. I loved everything about it. Um, excuse me. It's so good. Like Amy Adams is so good. Jeremy Renner is amazing, and it's about language and it's deeply personal. And I could not say enough things about this. I rewatched La La Land. This is like a monthly rewatch for me at this point. It's fun. It's beautiful. It's got one of the best endings of all time. Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone, their chemistry, everything about this movie, I love so freaking dearly. It's so good. It's it is so good. I Chef's I love the movie. I don't like musicals really at all, and this is just amazing. I don't know. And then I rewatch Stand by Me, another monthly rewatch, sometimes more than once, because it's my favorite movie of all time. And I will say there is a movie, not a movie. There's a movie coming out. No, there's a episode coming out next week, probably the week after. Week after, we'll say week after. About my favorite movies of all time. I think it's about time I tell the people what my favorites are. So, but yeah, that's kind of some of the things that I rewatched. Right now, I'm rewatching all the Harry Potters. But that was also a first watch this last month, the month of September. I not re, excuse me. I watched all the Harry Potter films, and I have a whole entire video that is in the channel on YouTube. It's the probably one of the more recent episodes on Spotify and Apple Podcast. I reviewed, ranked, talked about all the things Harry Potter in my previous episode because it is my new favorite franchise. Not my favorite franchise, but it's a new favorite of mine, and I absolutely loved it. So good. Oh, I forgot to say, I rewatched a couple 2023 movies as well. Barbie, I rewatched, which is just, I think it's charming, it's funny, and I think it does a really good job talking about what it means to be human. Um, I rewatched Spider Verse, the best animated movie of all time, across the Spider Verse, and I rewatched Elemental, which did not hold up as well on rewatch. Sorry. Some other first watches for me. I watched a movie called Waves. This is a movie that's directed by Trey Edward Schultz, Kelvin Harrison Jr., Taylor Russell, Sterling Brown. These are some people in this film. 2019. And it is a movie that had a lot of potential. I was locked in from the start. Like, it's got great cinematography, it's got really good performances, and a story that's compelling. It's relatable. It's, it's good. It's like a movie that probably would have been top 50 favorite movies of all time if it had not taken a turn that it did. I don't want to spoil it. I still think it's a good movie. I still give it 4 stars. But nonetheless, it first 2/3 were like 4.5, 5 stars, and the last third I did not like, and it really took me out of it. So I'm sorry. I watched a film called The Wind Rises. This is an animated Studio Ghibli film. I believe it's Hayao Miyazaki. It is Hayao Miyazaki. And you can just tell my immediate thought after watching this is just Miyazaki is one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. His just complete ability to communicate brilliant, deeply profound, and moving stories each and every film, and this was not anything different from Hayao. It's pure magic. It's heartbreaking and heartwarming. It's adventurous. It's fun. It's joyful. I love it. I love it. Love it. Love it. I give it 4.5 stars. Another film I watched. I watched 13 going on 30. It's fine. I mean, Jennifer Garner's fun. Mark Ruffalo sucks because I just don't like the dude in really anything but Spotlight. Shout out Spotlight. Um, it was fun. 3 stars. Nothing crazy. I watched Fargo. This is a movie that I liked. It was a chicken and duck movie the week as well. Um, wasn't the biggest fan comparatively towards most people and just how much they love Fargo. I mean, I think the script is easily the best part. It's based on a true story. And the performances are super, super good as well. But, oh, excuse me. Right. Besides this, the compelling performances in the script, there's moments I just disliked. I was kind of bored. I don't know. I just didn't connect with it as much as I would have liked. It's cool. It was in Minnesota, and my dad's from Minnesota. I think that's pretty sick. But um, yeah. I mean, it's fine. Like I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. Like it's a good movie, But um, I don't think it's as good as people make it out to be. I'll just say that. I'll just say that. It's not as good as everyone thinks it is. Um, but still good. It's still a good movie. But all right, I watched a movie called 500 Days of Summer. This was good. Um, if you know Roses are red, violets are blue, you know the rest of the poem. Very touching. um, but this is a delightful watch. I really, really enjoyed it. It's not what I was expecting, honestly. Um, I like simple rom coms. Like I love them actually. Like it's a guilty pleasure of mine is romantic comedy. This genre. But this was not a run of the mill rom com. It did have some of those elements, but it sometimes deviated from the norm. It was incredibly innovative, stylistic, creative. Um, is very much a delight to watch. It had great performances. The script was, I think, pretty solid. Very, very interesting story. And there's this expectations from versus reality scene that's just one of my favorite scenes of all time. I think that there's such brilliance to it. Um, it's relatable. It's heartbreaking. It's so unbelievably creative, and it was such a standout for the film that it immediately raised my rating. I did end up giving this 4.5 stars because of how good just even that scene is. And I really, really liked it. I watched Date Night because apparently I was watching rom coms. I remember when I wrote my review, which I did give it 2.5. Like it's not bad. It's just not great. Steve Carell's in it, and literally everyone else. The cast is like a fever dream. Um, and it's crazy. Like it is so wild. Like everybody that just ends up popping up in this movie. Not that it was a bad thing. It was just so interesting. Oh, I don't know. It was crazy. It was wild. It was such a weird, weird movie, but it was fun. Um, let's see. I watched The Hunt. This is Mads Mikkelsen. Um, it's a Thomas Vinterberg movie starring Mads Mikkelsen, and it's been on my watch list for a while. But my very good best friend Brighton, you can follow him on Letterboxd at non movie nerd, texted me recommending it to me, and when he texts me about a film that's like I haven't seen, I'm like I should watch it because I feel like I'm the one always recommending movies, and so I'm glad that I turned this movie on because it was masterful. Right, it's an extremely hard watch given the subject matter. I don't want to spoil it. I think you should go into it just not knowing what's going on. But it's brilliant. The acting performances, the direction, the script. It's an all-time great. Um, Mads Mikkelsen's clearly just one of the most underrated actors of this generation. Like his performance is moving, it's heartbreaking, and I would say it's almost perfect. It's one of my favorite performances I think I've just seen in a while. Like it's just so good. And I know that his other movie, Another Round, is supposed to be better, which is just crazy to me. Vinterberg's amazing. This is the first film I've seen from him, and I'm really excited to dive into his filmography. And the ending of the movie is just so good. I did give this movie 5 stars, so and I've only given 100 something of them out of 1,600. So I watched The Pianist. This was another plug Chicken and Duck movie review, and it's beautifully shot. It's directed wonderfully. It's heartbreaking. It's about a deeply broken man trying to just survive because he's just a pianist. He's not a superhero. He's not a hero. Like he's not. He's just a pianist. Um, and Adrian Brody's the youngest ever Oscar winner for best actor, and it's for good reason. This movie is so good. Gave it 4.5 stars. Um, I loved it. I loved it a lot. So I watched Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Um, Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt in 2005. And my takeaway is this is so much fun. This is so much fun. Like it's just two good-looking people that are kind of in love, but not in love, but are falling in love. And action. It was a good time. It's like an action drama. No, it's an action rom com. That's what it is. Goodness, and it's fun. I loved it. It was so good. I gave it 3.5 stars. Um, I mean, it's not like the most amazing thing in the world. I watched a movie called Little Fish, which was absolutely gut wrenching. Um, it is a movie that it took me a couple of days to process. Right, it takes elements from Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, but on the other hand, it's kind of like very much its own thing. It's beautiful. It's a creative journey. It's through love and grief and loss and memories, and it's not like my favorite movie about memories, which you'll learn probably in a couple weeks if you don't already know. But it's wonderful in its execution. It succeeds in almost every aspect: the story, the screenplay, the direction, cinematography. I think the performance is really good, especially from Olivia Cook. She just does such a good job um, playing this role and captivating the audience with her deeply moving, performances from the words she's saying, how she's delivering lines, all the way to her mannerisms and just facial expression. Like everything was just so well done. Um, I need another rewatch from because how emotionally and thematically rich this film was, and I really liked it. Easy A, another movie that's just fun, just a good time. I don't know what you want. Like, Emma Stone's great. I watched Clueless for a video that I'm doing, an episode I'm doing that's coming out next week as well. And that was fun too. I gave Easy, I think, 3.5 stars. Yep. And I gave Clueless 4 stars because it was so dang fun. And I just want to read something. I would like to say this. Tardiness is not something you can do on your own. Many people contributed to my tardiness. I would like to thank my parents for never giving me a ride to school, the LA City bus driver who took a chance on an unknown kid, but last but not least, the wonderful crew from McDonald's who spend hours making those egg McMuffins, which without which I might never be tardy. One of the best quotes ever. It's charming, funny. I love it. Full of great moments. I watched Ocean's 12. I think I'm gonna give 3.5 stars. I haven't reviewed it on Letterboxd yet. It's nowhere near as good as Ocean's 11, but it's still a good time. I still enjoyed it. Its cast is still fantastic. I'm looking forward to watching Ocean's 13, but it's nowhere near as good as Ocean's 11. And people that say otherwise, they're wrong. But my favorite watch of September um, is a movie called Stalker. And this is a movie that felt deeply personal. I was, blown away by this film. It's a masterpiece. Gave it 5 stars, and it's up there. Greatest list ever. It's up there on the favorites list. It's a film directed and created by Andrei Tarkovsky, and it's the first film that I've watched from him, and I can guarantee you it won't be my last. But you can just tell when I'm watching this, his filmmaking's on another level, similar to like Hayao Miyazaki. Um, but this is just unbelievable. Like his technical craftsmanship is something that I marvel at. Kind of his use of cinematography, landscapes, dialogue, and silence to further his story is something that I really enjoyed in this movie. Stalker's deeply euphoric. It's philosophical. It's haunting and contemplative all at the same time. It feels like I'm watching poetry in motion. Like it is visual art. Um, I believe it's everything that you want in a movie, right? Like there's so many layers to it, and every single layer is deeply cared for and fleshed out. It's not like there's just skipping over things. Like everything's fleshed out. Granted, it's in I believe Russian. It's 2 hours and 45 minutes. So like it's not the easiest watch for someone who, doesn't speak Russian and has 3 hours of their time. Um, but this is a movie where I believe Christ is just present. Um, I mean, Tarkovsky was an Orthodox Christian, and I think that there's stuff layered within this film, and um, I don't want to get into it because I think I need to make a video about it because of how much I loved it, and how much it deeply moved me. I mean, even just talking about it right now, I feel like my mannerisms and tone have changed just because of how much I really enjoyed this film. And not only that, I think it's just amazing. Like it's just one of the best movies I've ever seen. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, the movie's amazing. I don't know what else to say, but this movie is fantastic. It's brilliant. Um, it's great. It's truly just on a different level. Um, yeah, goodness gracious, it's a good movie. It's such a good movie. Um, that that wraps up our letterbox recap. The first one, September letterbox recap number one, the month of September. Um, let me know if you liked it. Just recapping some movies, talking about them a little bit. If it wasn't clear, I don't know if I said it. I gave Stalker 5 stars, by the way. But yeah, these are some movies. These are recommendations. Maybe some of them maybe aren't recommendations. Like Strays, Theater Camp. Don't watch them. They sucked. But I hope you can kind of I'm looking for some phrase. I don't remember. It's fine. But I hope you can kind of just see how certain films impact me, and maybe they can impact you in a similar way as well. But I hope with these videos and each podcast episode, like I don't really edit these. Like maybe someday I will. Like I mess up on my words. I just want to be authentic and communicate um, how I communicate. I don't want to be doing anything for show or anything like. It's just I just want to talk about movies and talk about Jesus. In some videos, I won't talk about Jesus as much, right? I think Jesus is present in a lot of these movies, if not all these movies, in some form or fashion. But um, I don't want to just edit and do all that. I just want to talk about movies, talk about Jesus, talk about the connection between both, because I believe that Jesus is ever present in the movies that we watch. Um, and you'll learn about that when I talk about West Week and the Creator coming next week. So um, the next episode that will be coming out either tomorrow or the next day is myself reacting to all my friends and family's favorite 4 movies. Um, Giving my thoughts on them, giving what my score of them is, and maybe telling them if they're wrong or not. By the way, everyone's opinion is subjective. Or movies are subjective, so your opinion's your opinion. It's totally fine. But anyway, this was the Letterboxd recap, the first one, the month of September. Let me know what you thought, and let me know what movie you watched in the month of September, what your favorite one was, and what was your favorite